time to put down your rod and pick up your headphones. Join Ebb Tide Tackle for The Outflow, the podcast talking all things lure fishing with hardcore fishos from all over the world.
Welcome back to The Outflow. So apologies, it has been a very, very long time between episodes, but we're back and we're running again. So hopefully they'll be more frequent, not 6 months in between. But tonight or today, joining me, I've got Dylan Pace, who is half the duo of On the Cast Media. Anyone that's mad keen fishing like we are probably has seen or listened to his podcast with Mitch. It's called On the Cast. Dill, how are you, mate?
Oh, I'm pretty good. And I got to say, 6 months, it was a long wait. I've been hanging for another Outflow episode. But being the icebreaker, I'll take it. Why not?
There you go. Yep.
But I've been good. Thanks.
Yes. Cheers. That's good. Well, Mitch and yourself had me on yours, and I said I'd return the favour, so we'll have to get Mitch on one day as well and have a chat with things that drive him. But, you're up tonight.
All right. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's it. So basically, for anyone that doesn't know Dylan and what he's about, he's pretty much everything and anything is the way I consider it. He's probably one of the most versatile anglers that I've seen kicking around the traps. Going to have a chat, get a bit of background, and then I just want to explore a few things with you and pick it to pieces.
All righty.
Yeah, we'll see where this goes. So how did you get into fishing and what kind of fishing was it to start with?
So I'd say semi-traditional intro. Like my first experience was like just as a young kid. So I lived in Anglesea for my whole childhood pretty much. So in terms of getting into fishing, pretty good place. So we had like a few estuary systems and beaches around there. No one in my family fished at all whatsoever. So got into it through family, friends, hardly knew what I was doing. Once or twice I'd catch a fish, but it just stuck with me. So just generally bait fishing, catching brim and mullet and small salmon, trevally, ludric, wrasse and zebrafish and stuff off the rocks too. So, and did that until I was sort of old enough. And then the whole brim scene came around, I guess you could say. So the whole like early 2000s soft plastic stuff. And that caught my eye. I remember I had this distinct memory one day using prawns down at Anglesea, and I was like winding my bait in, and I caught like the biggest brim I'd ever caught at the time when I was retrieving my bait. I'm like, hey, could be something to this.
There we go.
And I reckon that was like my defining moment of where it all just blew up for me from then on.
Yeah, nice. Dragging a dirty old prawn back.
Oh, worked a charm more than once too.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
But like, I'm pretty happy I had that traditional, what I would call traditional sort of intro to fishing. I think having that sort of background in bait and everything teaches you a bit more. Like you see a lot of young kids this day and age who just jump into the lure side, and I'm like, you are missing out on a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think the foundation of bait fishing and learning how to read the water and
that's it.
And tides and everything that goes hand in hand with learning to bait fish, it's invaluable. It's the best experience anyone can get.
Oh, like, especially as a young kid, like when I started out, I had zero fucking idea what I was doing, had no one to show me, and I sort of pieced it together. You'd bump into someone who was catching some fish and they'd sort of show you one or two things or teach you exactly like you said, how to read a bit of water or just think like a fish. It's that simple saying, you hear it all the time, but it just applies to every single species in any scenario. Think like a fish, you have a chance of catching that fish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and bait fishing is probably the easiest way to take that first step towards it. You know, it's
for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Like things have escalated for better or for worse from there. But love it.
Yeah,
lots of fun memories to look back on. That's for sure.
Oh, exactly right. Yeah. So from there, from the little grommet fishing the Anglesea River and the Surf Coast. Step forward a few years, and I know you were down here in the southwest and went to uni in Warrnambool.
Certainly did.
But what drove that? Was that just the fishing inspired bug learnt? Was it an obsession through school that you went, oh, let's do this forever? Or
it was a funny one. Like I look back And I remember at the end of year 12, I was still like, I have no idea what I want to do. I was like, something to do with fish. That's for sure. What it would be, I don't know. And then I saw fisheries and aquaculture in Warrnambool. So that's the course I did and jumped on it. Didn't really want to move away from home at the time, but little did I know how good it would be going down southwest. Like I'd always fished at Portland a whole heap, fished the southwest estuaries offshore a fair bit. And by the time I moved, I was in my element. Like I still remember driving down thinking, oh my God, what the hell am I getting myself into? But best few years of my life doing that. So just as you know, living there yourself, you got within 10 minutes from your house, you got everything. Like we had days we caught barrels and trout in the same day. Not many places in the world you could do that.
No, it's pretty unbelievable. And, I was lucky and I guess fortunate, and you'd never realize what you've got in your own backyard a lot of the time. Like I grew up down in the southwest originally, and we had it that spoiled. We were like, oh, we'll go fish the Hopkins, and you would literally fish the Hopkins like once or twice a year, because there was like within 10 minutes of my house, there was 4 trout lakes. Within 20 minutes, there's 2 estuaries, and you're like, oh, why are we going to drive 40 minutes to the Hopkins when we could be fishing, 7 other different places first?
Oh, like I think of it. I think about it like that now. I think when I was there, I fished the Curdies like 4 times in like nearly 5 years.
Yeah. And
now I tear my hair out over that. And I do remember like in my last year, I was like, all right, you're all moving from here. Do not take this for granted. And so I fished my ass off. Like if I had a moment to go, I'd go. Whether it was offshore, estuary, crater lakes, if I had time, I was on the water.
Yeah, nice.
But I still totally took it for granted. Now, like for those who don't know, now I'm up in Melbourne in the rat race, and it's a different world.
It is.
Totally different.
It is, but Melbourne still has options and diversity, and you've got a bit there to do everything.
For sure.
But
and it's very central too. Like I've obviously got a lot more into my freshwater fishing since I've been here, to being able to go, not having so much cod water within 2-3 hours of home now. It's just that's my whole other chapter, and I'm sure we'll chat about that soon enough. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like when I first moved here, I was like hating life, thinking, oh, this sucks. But in terms of fishing anyway, but now I've got some things figured out and got some good sort of motivational points. So lots to try, lots to explore.
Yeah, that's it. And, if anyone followed you during the COVID 10-kilometre lockdowns we had, you did find some good water close to home.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Smash it. Dirty old carp. Apologies to our European listeners. It's they're noxious here. We don't love them. But
no, different, isn't it?
Yeah, different world. Different world indeed.
But still catching fish. So at the end of the day, if it has fins and there's a way to catch it, I'll try figure it out.
Yep, that's it. And you're strictly lure man now?
Oh, pretty much.
Yep.
I'd say 99%. Like I don't mind the old harvest session on whiting and gummies and that sort of thing, but
yeah. Yep.
Oh, pretty much. Like if I'm going fishing for my enjoyment, 100% lure.
Yep.
Whether it's top water, jigging, estuary fishing, anything in between. If it eats a lure or smashes something off the top, I want to know about it.
Yeah, that's it. And that's pretty much a common factor that you'll hear about it. I guess a lot of people in what we call our area have been obsessed.
Yeah.
It's goes hand in hand, doesn't it? It's just anything that smashes and crunches lures, we're all into.
Oh, you just want to try it all. So
yeah.
It's you could say it's a bad habit, but one I've fallen very deep into there.
Yeah, it is. So I get it often from the family, and I'm not sure if you get it from your partner or your family at all. You get the old, so how'd you go? You caught some fish? Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was a really good session. Oh, what'd you bring home? Nothing. What? No, we were just fishing. So it's like, hang on, fill the harvest bag every now and then.
Yeah,
keep everyone happy.
Oh, like, because like I've got like my partner's family, they're into their fishing as well, and I had a funny one. I think it was like came back from East Gippsland probably a few months ago, and they're like, "Oh, how'd you go?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, like a really good trip." They're like, "Oh, how many fish did you catch?" And I'm like, I don't know, probably like 300 fish between us. And they're like, how many did you keep? And I'm like, I don't know, one flathead.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
And that was it.
Yeah. And we kept that because it probably choked on the lure. And
Yeah, swallowed a double clutch into its freaking stomach or something.
Yeah, exactly.
As they do. But it's a delicious problem at the end of the day. Always.
That's it. So, Deacon,
Mm.
fishery science.
Yep.
Where did that lead you? Anywhere?
So it did. So I did a little bit of did some work down at Warrnambool with Scotty Gray doing the tuna surveys. While I was there as well, that was good fun. So just chatting to people at boat ramps, very cruisy job, often sitting out at Apollo Bay or where was I a lot of the time, Port Fairy on stinking hot summer days, measuring tuna. But it was cool. It would often be annoying. It would always be on the really nice calm days when everyone else is out and you're watching your mates come back with trumpeter and tuna and kings and you're like, should be fishing.
Yeah, but you're working.
Good to see, but pretty much where it led ultimately, like I'm with Zoos Victoria now, so not very fishing related at all. So I sort of went down the still more enviroscience conservation side of things.
Yep.
But I love it. So I've been there nearly 3 years now. So it's been good having something a bit different to fish half the time.
Yeah, breaks it up, but shares a common interest, doesn't it?
It does. Because I've done my fair share of like retail, like fishing retail and everything, and sort of like that's come to its end now, and I kind of love it. Like I'm more so fishing just for myself.
Yeah,
like I don't feel obliged to try all this new gear that's coming out and have to know everything. It's more just fish how I like, when I want, how I want.
Yeah, nice.
And my timetable's super flexible, so that's even better. If I need 3 days off to go walk some pristine mountain stream or something silly, I got it.
Lovely. It's the perfect scenario, isn't it?
So hopefully that can continue for as long as possible, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Nice. So touching back on that bait fishing background, and then you're just driven by anything that crunches and smashes a lure, you 100% recommend going to it that way. Get a good establishment, like for the little grom that's sitting there that might stumble upon this and be listening and goes, do I just jump straight into the lure fishing thing that's, everyone's doing now, or get that foundation done first?
Oh, you got to have the foundation. Like I remember from when I went from, say, servo prawn or fish and chips on a hook or bread. My next step was I went and bought a bait trap. And I threw that bait trap in one of the, like Anglesey River or one of those small creeks. And I remember catching all these little gudgeons and shrimps and crabs and little mullet and looking at it all. And I'm like, wow, this is the stuff they eat. And it was sort of the foundation of me discovering everything within that ecosystem, how it all interacts with each other. Like you're seeing those little invertebrates, your small fish, and you can put 2 and 2 together. And then, especially once you get into lure fishing, obviously, you're learning to match the hatch, simple stuff like that. But the main thing is learning where certain bait will be, like say iconic Southwest species, little greyback hardyheads. So anyone who fishes the hop anywhere from pretty much Glenelg River or even further into South Australia, all the way to say Port Phillip Bay, around summertime, you get this big migration of little things, greyback hardyhead or whitebait. They run up the estuary, and you normally know they'll always congregate around the edges of the weed. So straight away, you can sort of put 2 and 2 together where to find those. But then you also know in summer, when you get a lot of weed growth, you get your shrimp. There you go, right into the weed. Where you're going to find your bream in the middle of the day, sitting deep in that. You can get them on weedless plastics, and you sort of start just learning.
Build the patterns.
Yeah, get some patterns.
Yeah, that's it.
You just get a mind map in your head. And you do that with anything, like whether you start like bait fishing for kingfish. Like I sucked at getting kings on lures for a long time, probably still do. But like even just learning to catch live bait, where does live bait show up? Where does it sit? How does it react to pressure points and currents and tides and everything else? Just you get that little foundation and it can go a long way.
That's it. Yeah,
and the best thing is you always learn.
Yeah,
exactly. Never stops.
No, never stops. But you can use that, as you said, that foundation as a crossover from reading the water right through to your tactics, whether it's a bream or a trout in a stream or chasing a kingfish.
Yeah.
Yes. Nice.
And then from there, once you got some sort of foundation, you just always develop it and you can go wild from there. Never stops. And you see some people who are next level with that too.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's as the saying goes, 5% of the fishermen catch 95% of the fish.
Yes.
But that's all part of it, isn't it? And you strap on the wetty and get under the surface a bit as well, don't you?
Oh, love it. Any flat day that I am not working, that is what I'll be doing. Like I was chatting to someone the other day and I was like, yeah, I would drive past busting bluefin to go straight for a crate dive.
That's a big call.
It is a big call, but I would. No, I love getting under. It's one of those things. It's not because it's something you can't do all the time, but there's something about like when you dive under and you just see these big orange legs sticking out from under a cave. Yeah. And you're like, all right, I've got to grab this thing and it's going to go batshit crazy. And I'm going to have a fight, but it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to beat me up.
Oh, you're going to come out with torn hands, but it's so worth it. You get to eat that thing and it's just like pure. I always think of it as just like pure hunting, pure working for your food.
Yeah. No, that's
proper hands-on experience.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Jamming yourself in a rock ledge somewhere. Yeah. As long as you come back out.
That's it. Try not to get too stuck.
No.
Had a few hairy enough calls where, let's just say, you learn not to get too cocky.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, but then the whole diving thing, like, they've sort of been put on the back burner a bit. I've had a couple of sessions the last couple of years, but a bit more on the spearing side, so local kings and tuna. Like I've shot a couple of really good kingfish now, so like I got a cracking one just under 13 kilos. What was it, 2 years ago? So I don't know. Might dive down that path a bit more eventually, but we'll see. Casting is a bit more fun than shooting them.
Yeah, okay. There you go. And I guess that's another thing as well. When you're talking ocean, it opens up so many other different avenues, does it? Whether it's casting, jigging, trolling if you want to troll, but as well as diving and doing all that, as well as your dirty old harvest, bit of bait fishing as well.
It's funny. It's funny though, because like back on the learning thing, like diving in, you get to see so much. Like by no means do I know the habits of all those fish super well, but I find it very funny in Victoria. Like I've done a fair bit of kingfish in New Zealand. And over there, the kingfish are angry. You cast anything at them, they just destroy it. Victoria, you cast at them half the time, they just go running the other way, or swimming, should I say. As I'm sure anyone who targets kings knows, sometimes they don't like that big thing splashing on the surface and they'll just disappear. Yeah. Often when you dive with them, the second you jump in the water and you just stare at them, they'll just come straight to you.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Yet they're scared of 100 grams of wood skipping across the top.
Yeah, it's I think that's part of the attraction though as well. The drive that a lot of lure guys especially have for them is they're not just easy to catch.
Oh shit, no.
All the time. Like you've got to work hard for them and work them out, and the guys that are obsessed by them, it's all or nothing. It's like no, the rest of species are off the table now.
Yeah,
it's kingfish for the next 3 months, and that's all I'm doing.
And that was the best thing about being in Southwest Vic, because it was like every single warm, bright, sunny day in summer when you got those southeasterlies or a nice northerly blowing, that's all we'll do. Yeah. And we got pretty in tune with it, but like they were still fussy. Like you'd still have plenty of fishless sessions where you go out and see a couple of 100 good fish, but then you have those days where they just decide to eat, or you just catch that one really nice fish after a lot of hard work. And I don't know, they'd probably be my favorite species just for that reason.
Yeah, that's
got so many good qualities, but just the fact you have to work for them is a really good thing.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate them a lot more.
Certainly does. Yep. Yeah. And you'd be well rounded in the knowledge that, the kingfish population isn't what it used to be either. So
no,
we want to keep those guys breeding and get them back. So
it's funny. In my short time, I've seen more kingfish, but every year I find size just fluctuates so much. Is there reasons behind that? Possibly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You guys had that awesome podcast on it where, I don't know, there's a lot of issues in that fishery. And if anyone hasn't listened to it, go back a few episodes because, my God, it's a bit of an eye-opener.
It is.
And you can go even deeper than that too if you want to do a bit further digging and building.
There's a lot to it, indeed. Yeah. And, a fishery that spans states and nations You know,
Yep.
our fish are genetically the same as the New Zealand fish. So,
And
yeah,
they do go, they swim across the ditch.
they do. Yep.
Mm.
They go back and forth. That's been proven. So it's a lot in it, as you said, which we just need to make sure we all do the right thing by them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do hope there's a bit of work, and well, there is going to be some bit of a review going on. So
Yeah.
can't come soon enough, in my opinion.
No, keep it on. And, you know, if we're going down that path, there's a lot of other species that are in the same similar boat. You know, look at Mulloway. They're
Yeah, didn't even have to mention that.
No.
I saw the steam coming out of my ears.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me properly has heard me rant for an hour about that before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that could be a whole nother podcast.
That poor species, I tell you what.
Anyway, so as a versatile angler,
Yes.
it's now coming in. Well, it's supposed to be midsummer in Victoria, but it's kind of just starting. Everything's a bit late this year.
We finally had our first few warm days, so
yeah, that's
can't
it.
believe it.
And now we're going to get smashed by 100 mil of rain in the next 3. Yeah.
Classic Victoria.
Yes, welcome to the south. You probably have a hard time with options, I'm guessing, around summer and autumn. At being, you know, well versed and driven in every different area.
Oh, I shit you not. There's probably a bit. I can think of a couple of days where I've sat at home trying to decide what I want to do on my day off.
Yeah.
And then by the time I've decided, I've ran out of time.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is it a blessing or a curse?
Oh, it's a curse financially and bloody mental wise too, I guess. Like I always say, like if I only did one style of fishing and I could just sell everything else, I'm like, wow, what could I do?
But
yeah, well, I could, but then that's no way to enjoy life.
Yeah, that's it. So say you become the offshore fisherman and that's all you do. And then you've got, you know, a week or 3 weeks of straight southerlies that are blowing 20 plus knots and you're like, I can't fish.
Yeah, and put it that way, every time I can go offshore, that's exactly what happens anyway. So I'd only be shooting myself in the foot doing that.
That's it. So if you had to choose, though, are you you trekking off to the north chasing a cod?
This time of year, it's tough.
Yeah.
If I could only do one thing, it'd be offshore this time of year.
Yep.
Which is funny, like. The last few summers have just been so bloody good on bluefin, where that fishery has traditionally been a lot later in the season for anyone who's not from Victoria. Normally, like, or should I say, historically, and by historically I mean like not even 10 years ago, they're predominantly a winter fish.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, cool, I got a 15 kilo fish today. Where now they're a summertime fish. Like you expect them to rock up from December onwards. They're normally always here. This season's been a little bit later, but now they're here in numbers. But our fish are normally good. Like they've been a bit smaller this season, but usually they're 20 plus kilo fish. Yeah. Fish to 35 are reasonably common too. So when you have fish like that in big numbers, you can't pass that up. Could never.
Try a kingfish in to mix it up and you're away.
Yeah, like can't go past offshore like that. Tuna kings, bit of slow pitch as well. Like that's one thing I push hard down here. Like no one slow pitches, yet it's so bloody good. Like we've got such a good mixed variety of species year round. Can fill an esky, get a good feed, and have a bloody ball doing it. So
yeah, and you're spot on. Slow pitch it's a sleeping giant. You know, not many guys. I could probably think of 5 or 6 guys I would say do it properly.
Yeah,
you know, down here in Victoria, and it's just guys don't do it. So. As you're into that, how do you approach a slow pitch session?
Oh, like I will say, like I do think the best time of year for it, like if you're more southwest Victoria, because you got the good currents pushing up through during the winter, during the cooler months.
Yeah.
So we've always found probably June till October. That's really good fishing in that sort of 75 to 130, 140 meters out there. And yeah, like the hardest thing is just finding the good ground. Just you got to have a pot around, but like normally we've all found a few good marks. Just when we've been looking for say barrel bluefin trawling out that far or doing gummy bashes, and all of a sudden you start pulling up things like knife jaw and nanagai or trumpeter or snapper when you're out deeper. Mark those and treasure those marks.
Yes.
because you've just found the areas you want to slow pitch.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's really not too much to it. It's just the main thing is just finding ground.
Yep.
In my experience, anyway. Depends how deep you want to go into it, though.
Oh no! Look, I think it's a good technique that goes hand in hand with topwater lure casting that guys can do together.
Yeah,
it's another thing to have in your armory.
Oh, but like we often do it just on the slow days as well. Like if you're out there and the tuna are just moving too fast, or you can't get near them, or you're just finding nothing, you can just go pull up, catch a couple of snapper or a few gurnard or latchet or whatever you might find, and you're not going home with nothing at the end.
Yeah, that's it. Still kick the scoreboard over, and
you don't let your 50 kilos of ice go to waste.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly right. Put used to that water. And so slow pitch stuff, you're talking like PE2?
Yeah, what am I running? At the minute, I'm running PE2, predominantly pitching jigs around 150 grams.
Yep.
So like I'm a big fan of jig star rods just for the price point. Like I don't think it's a style of fishing you need to go spend $1,000 on for a rod down here anyway, but I don't know. Done well. If I get more into it, I'll probably go buy a whiz bang setup, but just 1500 Oshia jigger, PE2 braid, cram on, what have I got on that? 550 meters, I think I put on there. So I have plans to explore deeper. I think we've chatted about that enough.
We have a little bit. Yeah, it's on the to-do list, that one.
Oh, yeah. Like especially after seeing in New Zealand, like when you start fishing that 200 meter plus zone and you see what pops up, and we go out here and we'll deep drop and you're catching blue eye and gemfish and grenadier, and you see guys at the ramp who have things like Alfonzino and like raised brim, and you're like, these are all proper slow pitch species.
Yep.
And no one does this down here.
No,
why?
No. Yeah,
like I used to work down at the tackle shack in Warrnambool, and I had this group of guys come in once, and they were like, "Oh, we want to try jig. We've done all this deep dropping, but we want to drop a jig." And I remember I sold them like the heaviest jigs we had were only about 400 grams. I'm like, "Take that, put that down there. Something's going to eat it if you get it to the bottom." And they came back and they got a couple of like just 4 to 6 kilo blue eye, and they got out of all things a 40 kilo bass groper down here.
There you go.
When do you see a bass groper?
No, I was going to say, have you ever heard of anyone even catching one on bait down here?
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, we got the biggest harpooker we've ever seen." And I'm looking at the photo and I'm like, "You're kidding." So you never know what shows up.
Yeah, exactly right. Indeed. And look, there's a couple of guys out doing a little bit of that stuff now during winter, but everyone's got the electrics and baited hooks, and away they go.
Oh, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like you'll see me doing that enough. I thoroughly enjoy a fillet mission of those tasty uglies, but
that's it.
They eat lures, and I like things that eat lures.
Yeah. I think that the one thing that scares away most people from jumping in and doing it is going, "I've got to wind that up."
Yeah, that's garbage, but you forget about it when it's at the surface.
Exactly.
Like I remember I had this horrible experience. We were fishing in like, I think it was like 250 or 260 meters, and I got like a 18, 20 kilo kingfish that ate the jig would have been like 5 cranks from the bottom, and it fought the whole freaking way. And I remember dying, and I got it on GoPro, and I like over lockdown, I like watched it back, and it was the funniest thing. And I'm carrying on like a little bitch the whole time. And I get it to the surface, I'm like, "Oh, that's fucking sick, awesome!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I forgot about all the pain." And then probably for the next hour after that, I was probably like lying on the deck dying, I reckon.
That's it. But you do it all again tomorrow.
I would.
Yeah.
I dropped the jig straight afterwards again.
Exactly right. Straight back into it. It's all
sucker for punishment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you and Mitch, to still go off on a tangent, have been spending a fair bit of time cod fishing.
Yes.
As everyone would know from listening to your podcast, your recent episode.
Yeah. Or even just looking at our Instagram feed. I was looking at it today and I'm like, fuck, you'd probably think we live up in like central New South Wales at the minute.
Yeah.
Just all cod. There might be a yellow or a trout cod in there somewhere too.
Yeah. Yeah, trout cod. You guys had a fairly handy mission on them, didn't you, recently?
We did. And it was funny, like we were speaking about it the other day, but like I found this spot where I was like on Google Earth, like I remember I was like bored at work scouting some systems, and I'm like, I don't know if this place would have cod, but it might. And it did. So that was good, but it was all trouties, but like a really, really big one. So obviously no one really fishes for them because we caught quite a few from this one stretch of river. It just seemed very unpressured. And yeah, it was mad. Like they're all that sort of like 60 plus centimeters, which for trout cod is just insane. Like I'd probably caught 1 or 2 trout cod that size before. So to catch them the size of like your average good Murray cod, I was bloody impressed.
Yeah. And they pull like dozens.
Oh.
They're mad.
Insane. Like I had one that would have been probably about 65, and I've like skip casted a spinnerbait like to the depths under this willow tree, and I'm like cranking it back just under the surface because it was all just like shallow timber. And I got to watch the trout come from under a log and like buff it off the top and hook up, and I've just like flipped it out bass style and seen how big it was, and I'm just like, you're kidding me. And
yeah.
Visual,
9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, that would never work.
No, normally just brick you straight away or just totally miss the hooks, and you'd still be happy just to see that fish. But the fact I landed it.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, look, they seem to be on the up again, which is great. And
like, especially we found every year you get that bit more flow. There just seems to be more trouties around. I don't know. That's because they obviously do. They like the flowing water harder. I don't know. They just come out and about, or if it is helping them spawn.
Yeah.
I don't know much behind the breeding of cod, but there seems to be a lot of them around. Like every season we bump into more and more trouties.
That's it.
And a lot of little ones too, like heaps around that sort of like 30, 35 centimeters, like these tiny little things. So they're obviously spawning. They're doing well.
Yeah, the spawning and VFA are doing their bit, breeding as many as they can to get into waterways, which is good. So
it makes a difference. Like you wonder in 20 years' time, hopefully they're as common as Murrays.
Yeah, like they used to be. Yeah.
Once upon a time, the old blue nose.
Back in the day when the rivers ran blue. Yes. As they say. So what's plans now?
Oh, so many plans, Andy. So many plans. Oh, like original plan like this week I was meant to be going down west for Kings, but 2 things interrupted that. COVID interrupted that, as it does in Victoria. And the weather. So no loss there. Then I was going to go cod, rain. So I don't know, might be a bit more estuary exploring like I was just chatting to you earlier. But been doing a little bit on the estuaries again lately. So first time just targeting brim and EPs in a couple of months. So I don't know, I'll put that on the back burner. Hardly thought about it, but when it's the only option you got, I'll take it again.
Make the most of it.
Yeah. Oh, but it was good fun. Like caught quite a few fish, nothing massive, but had a few good bites, got smoked by a few good fish. Bit of good sight fishing too, so happy days there.
Yeah, it kind of gets to the point where it doesn't matter what the species is if you can scratch the itch with that kind of result, bit of side fishing and surface action, happy days.
Oh, like it's always that thing. Like it's painful when you know what's sitting out the front of the heads at the minute or a bit further down the coast, but then the weather's shit, just make the most of what you got available. And I don't know. It always amazes me so many people just get so locked onto one style of fishing and only that, where at the end of the day, you can still scratch, as you say, you can scratch an itch.
Exactly
Variety
right.
is the spice of life.
It is indeed.
The most overused saying ever, but it's so applicable there.
Yeah. It's right. It does apply there. That is exactly right. I've just lost my train of thought here. I was going to ask you something. I've got a note written down here, carp or cod. But I think that was referring back to lockdown in hindsight.
Oh, man. Mirror carp. No. Have to be cod.
You had some pretty epic battles there.
I'd happily never see a carp again.
There was, by the end of it, you were enjoying that. I remember watching your Instagram story, 10 and 15-minute fights on these big mirror carp.
Oh, yeah.
Just owning you around these pools. And it's like...
Look, I had no idea how into it people get. And I was catching all these like really weird varieties of carp and having people message me. And they're like, did you seriously catch this in Australia? And I'm like, yeah, obviously. Like, why? And they're like, this species isn't meant to be here or blah, 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 blah. This is this strain. I'm like, then you start catching all these cool ones and hearing about these other ones. And you're like, wow, I want to get more into this. So then I did.
Tapped into a new underground society that we knew nothing of.
Yeah, well, that's it. Because I've always known like the whole, there's like this whole top water scene in Victoria where everyone sort of knows each other. And then there's the whole brim thing. There's the whole cod thing. And lo and behold, there is a big dedicated following of carp fishers too.
Yep.
Yeah, not fully my scene, but it was cool to get an insight into it.
Not yet.
But like, it was funny. Had a few months, got to tick off a few things. Like I ended up catching one just under 30 pound. Didn't even know carp got that big, but lo and behold, apparently they do. That thing went harder than any tuna I've ever caught. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, this there's something to this. It's kind of cool. There you go.
Yeah. Nice.
Don't know if I'll go again, but yeah.
That itch has been scratched.
Oh, well and truly. Yeah. Just be more painful memories doing that now.
Yeah. hopefully we won't be able to continue to travel far and wide.
There'll be a lot more bread at the supermarkets around northern suburbs now too.
Yeah, that's it. Who's a better fisherman, you or Mitch? Lay it out.
Oh,
He's not here. He's not listening tonight.
Not here.
So
he will always towel me up at anything freshwater. I'll admit that, except for the trout cod. I seem to have some sort of, I don't know what you'd say. They seem to come to me.
Yeah, right. Got the magic touch on the trout.
No, I will say though, Mitch can put his lure where it needs to fucking go at the end of the day, and he has a sixth sense when it comes to anything like cod, yellows, trout, anything like that. He just makes shit. He can make shit happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I don't think I've had a fishless session on natives with him. I don't know how that happens, but he will always get something to stick, get a bite, find something cool.
Yeah, works
which
out.
Is great.
Gets it done.
Bit of a lucky charm. Leprechaun man.
That's his new nickname from now on.
Native leprechaun.
He's a bit of a fly fishing guru as well, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he got balls deep into that.
Yeah.
I have to give him some shit about it though, but I don't know if it's a fad or if he's going to go full like Andre style with it. But time will tell.
Yeah, look out.
But I've seen it in action. It looks fun. Like I was talking about it with my missus today. I was like, oh yeah, fly fishing. I'm like, that'd be fun to do, but fuck that. I don't want to be lying out another 20 grand on gear and traveling to all these pristine island atolls where you have to pay $20,000 to get here and to this boat to go to that plane to get here to spend 4 nights on a beach where you can fish one day because the weather's garbage the other 4. But
yeah, it becomes an obsession, doesn't it? I've tinkered a little bit
worried about
with the fly rod. Yeah. And brim on fly and estuary perch and stuff like that years and years, decades ago.
Yeah,
when I was actually at uni. But you quite easily fall into the trap of getting obsessed with it. And I wouldn't mind ticking off a cod on fly though. It's pretty cool.
I've seen Mitch get quite a few on fly, and like it's funny because obviously they don't get as pressured as much by fly fishers. So
yes,
you get to present very natural presentations to them. But so often we've had a few sessions where I'll be throwing surface next to him, throwing big surface flies, and it'd be roughly 50-50 in terms of hits, but I would say more so a couple more on the fly. But what's interesting is often the bigger fish will always be on fly.
Yeah. I've had some good chats with Cam McGregor from River Escapes about that thing, and because he's a native fly guru.
Yeah.
And even down to the point some of the flies that he ties that he's constructed himself. But fishing the rivers, he's like, just come out and you'll see what works better. Lay down the challenge.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm like, if you think effort versus reward, if you're fly fishing, you're probably going to get more hits versus casts, but then lure fishing, you can put in 3 times as many casts. So end of the day, I'm just happy catching. I'll pick up a fly rod happily. I've done it before, but I don't know. I like firing quick casts in, just fish in water, pepper in it. Like if anyone knows me, I'll fish probably quicker than I should. So cover water, look for active fish. I don't really have the patience to sit there, pepper in a snag, or throw in 3 casts with a fly rod when I could have done 10 with a spin with like standard bait casting gear. So
that cat sit still.
But all credit to Mitch there. You can freaking stick it out, and he's had a few really cool fly bites too. Like I remember one night we're drifting up this big pool and he had a monster blow up. He had this like big, what was it? So this 12-inch water dragon fly. I have no idea what it's called, but it's this big jointed articulated thing, and I'm watching it going across the top, and a monster just came up and ate it, engulfed it, missed the hooks. But I was like, all right, that's freaking sick. Having something like that eat a lure you've just tied like that morning when we're having lunch, that's really cool.
Yeah, like that's it. That's worth the effort, isn't it?
That's worth it. Indeed. That's worth like 10 on conventional tackle.
Yeah. Well, you'll be able to take all his gear soon anyway, because he's retiring, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, he's been selling a whole heap at the minute. I don't know if that's grand plans to upgrade or downscale, but
that, and he's got a visitor coming to visit soon, doesn't he? So
his fishing time is
gonna hang up the fly rod for a while.
No, he's tearing his hair out about that.
He's going to kill us.
Oh yeah,
he's going to kill us. So for for everyone else listening, Mitch's long-term and, well, now long-distant partner is coming back to Australia. They'll be reunited. Be lovely to see.
Oh, after the old COVID break.
Yeah. Yes.
Casual 18 months. Good on them.
Yeah, indeed. Meanwhile, we'll all go fishing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It'd be great not having someone on all my water. So my fish, Mitch.
Done. The next 12 months,
Ooh.
what's planned? Any big trips, or is it all just about doing what you do?
There's
been here, there, and everywhere.
There has been so much debate on what to do, but I don't know. With everything happening, I'm a bit like everyone, I think, a bit hesitant to put down money on trips and everything at the minute.
Yep.
Because you just never know what's going to happen. Like if you're going to have to isolate, if someone is going to say, "Nah, stuff here, we're closing the borders again, flights getting cancelled, everything like that." So I've never done Great Barrier Reef and I've never done Barra. So those are the two things the past 2 years we've been talking about, but these are probably the worst 2 years to be talking about it. So
yeah,
in the works. I hope it's the next 12
done.
months.
Yep.
But we shall see. But besides that, at the minute I've been stoked just sort of pottering around Victoria, like exploring cod. And in all honesty, I think the next 12 months, I'm just going to go balls to the wall doing that. So want to tick off a giant, like still yet to get a meatery. Had my first encounter the other day with a really, really big one. And that sort of just cemented in a bit of an itch that needs a scratch.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll go until I get it.
And they make you earn it.
Oh, bloody oath. Like that would have been, I don't know how many trips this season or how many hours. Like it's probably a lot scarier when you think about it in terms of hours you put on the water. Or how many casts.
Yep.
Thousands and thousands and thousands. And then it was a sort of like this one, I was sort of a bit off guard and it's ate the spinnerbait and it's sinking down and in a bit of current. And oh my God, it got me in the snag and I've sort of had it on for a while. And in the end, the spinnerbait just gave away and I had a crinkled bit of wire.
No fun there.
Sort of sucks, but
yeah, it does.
It's part of it. Like when you're dealing with fish that big, there's just so much that can go wrong. So
yeah, exactly.
Back to the drawing board, sort of get some lures I have a bit more faith in and go back.
Yep.
Try again.
Yep.
Another casts.
A river man, like you want to pull the beast out of the river, or
got to be a river for me. Like
got to be a river.
I'll happily fish lakes, but I think a river cod over that meter mark would be worth 5 from a lake for me personally. Anyway.
Yep.
Just something about it, so much more natural and more appealing. But a big cod's a big cod at the end of the day. Like I'm not going to knock that, and I'd never knock anyone who gets it from a lake either.
Yeah, that's it. It's like it's nearly to the point where you can look at fish and all big cod are worth full respect. Never take that away from them. But river fish tend to be regarded on length now, whereas lake cod are starting to become weight. Weight based. Yeah, 100-pound or the benchmark, and look, I'm sure that the possibility of a 100-pound fish out of a river is there, but it's just going to be probably the minute detail, the lowest percentage possible kind of option.
But it's still sort of the thing that excites me because it's like with the whole estuary thing, like anyone who knows me, like I've always been a hardcore estuary fisher, and I've sort of reached the point where I've done everything I've sort of wanted to. Like there's a few things I have to tick off still, but I go estuary fishing and I know exactly what's to expect to a point anyway. But the thing with cod at the minute for me is just like I can be fishing a small bit of water, and we've had encounters where like one of our mates have pulled a fish that's just like 1.15 meters plus from water you could nearly jump across. Yeah. And you got to always remember, like any bit of cod water you're fishing, yeah, you might be fishing a tiny Clearwater creek, but there is still a possibility you could pull a fish that is 1.20 meters digger. Like these fish could be anywhere. You don't know where or when it's going to happen. But in the back of your head, you're thinking, oh, if I caught a 60, I'd be stoked. Where you're like, there's probably 1.10 meters in that pool too. And you forget that. Exactly. But it could be the next one that eats your lure.
That's exactly right. So on that, because you regard yourself as relatively new on that cod scene, your initial impact and focus, I guess, breaking down that water, are you falling back to your old trout habits, reading the water, flows? How does it tick through for you?
The biggest one I've had to wrap my head around is probably river heights and flows, because that's something I've just never had to give consideration to really. So like actually doing your research before you go on trips, because we've had a few times where we've been caught out, and a lot of the time when we're going, it will be one of us is driving where the other one's like checking like water charts, seeing where's going to be good, what's been stable, what's been high, what we can cross off, what's possible, what we're going to go check, where we're probably going to fish. So, and then once you get to it, I found trout fishing has probably been the most adaptable thing to cod, even in big water, but just sort of, it's just that thing. You can, it's, as I said earlier, you think like a fish, like where will that fish sit where it doesn't have to expend too much energy to get a feed, but where food is going to come to it. So like it gets to the point where it's pretty predictable, where you look at where you catch a fish, like if you've seen a nice scum line in a back eddy, there's a cod there. Is it going to eat? It might, but there will be one there.
Yeah.
And it's like reason, like it gets to the point now where like fishing, like I've done most of my cod fishing with Mitch, a bit with a few other mates as well, but it's great now because instead of fishing everything and sort of just piecing it out, we're getting to the stage where we can look at a piece of water and be like, we could fish this. It's not ideal, but if we go further, we can probably fish better water, give that more attention. That's where we know we're going to get our bite. And from that, I sort of think of it like fishing smarter. Like you might be passing over water that does have fish, but you're going to water where, you know, chances in that at that time, they're going to be a bit more beneficial to your probable success.
Yep.
So I hope that makes sense.
It does. And I think that's something I wanted to try and draw out of you, is the way you break it down and look at it, and, you know, maximizing that efficiency of effort.
Yeah, because it is a lot of effort. Like every trip we do, we're land basing. Normally you're doing 20 Ks on foot, like up and back for a day. So it does. The biggest thing is making sure you're not fishing shit water. Like we've had times where you'll skip a kilometer of all right water because you know what's coming up, or it seems to be on, like you might get your phone out and have a look on maps before you go, and you're like, all right, that's where we want to end up at this time of day. And that's the other thing we've learned, like often timing it with the best bite periods. Like sometimes you'll be in prime water, but if you're there at the wrong time, you're there at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Just getting that shadow line and everything right. Like no secret with cod, no secret with natives. Like we've found shadows are everything, cover is everything. Combine those at the right time with the good flows, something will happen.
It's easy. Sounds easy, doesn't it?
Sounds easy.
Yeah.
Sounds easy in my head when I say it like that. Yeah, when you do all of that for 2 days and you haven't had a sniff, you're just like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
Like I had it the other day where this was only probably like 2 weeks ago. Mitch had like 4 or 5 fish up on me and I hadn't had a hit, and I'm just like, what the hell am I doing wrong? And then you just got to remember, you're like, oh, it's just cod fishing, isn't it? I think by the end we ended up probably getting like 15 fish for that session, and then it was awesome. But then for like 10 hours of that day, I was just sitting there bitter and tearing my hair out and doing shit casts because I just got out of the zone. And that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Question yourself as to why you're there and why you're doing it.
Oh, too good at it, I tell you.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest thing to do. Just but if you don't fall in that habit, you go all right in the end.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and that's it. You know, at the end of the day, doing those trips, and if you're focusing on that one trophy fish, it's one bite.
It's one bite.
It could be the next cast.
And like I have the simplest saying, like every time I'm fishing with someone and it's a slow day, I'm always like, you just got to make shit happen. Like if you throw a lure in water long enough, eventually you're going to throw it in front of a fish that wants to eat it.
Yeah.
Make shit happen.
Yeah.
And that goes for cod, that goes for kingfish, but most of all, tuna.
Yeah.
When they're sitting on this, you know what it's like when they're sitting up on the surface doing shit all. You just got to piss them off at the end of the day. And I think that applies to anything and everything. It
does. Or you get frustrated and you drive off and find another lot.
Yeah.
Annoy them for a while. The percentage option says one day one will eat.
That's it.
Well, it's been a good chat. It's probably a little bit left field and different for the usual direction that we take. But I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about being diverse and versatile as well, and how you apply that across different areas and different fisheries. So it's pretty good. I think a lot of it just breaks down to the basics and reading the water, which is something that
reading the water is everything. And like it's sort of the whole premise of this chat boils down, like the more things you fish at and you sort of get confident with as well. Like I've always been a very confident estuary fisher, reasonably confident offshore with finding fish and generally getting a few bites, and everything can be applicable to everything else.
Yep.
And it's like even when you're in different parts of the world, like I remember being in like a jungle in Borneo trying to find snakehead, and it's just I was like, all right, I have no idea what these fish do. I know they love swampy areas, and I found this swampy area with all this flow coming through, and sure enough I look in the water and I see this big fry ball and there's these 2 big snakeheads sitting right next to it. I'm like, hey, there you go. It's just simple shit.
Yep.
Learn what fish like.
That's it. Get the bait trap out and
exactly
pot those weed beds.
That's something I should probably do again, see if things have changed over time as well. Like it's probably been 15 plus years since I've done that.
Yeah, I'm tipping it hasn't.
Oh, who knows? I don't even know if I still have a bait trap.
Tackle shop.
Yep.
You'll find one.
Go raid one.
That's it. Exactly. Very good. Thanks, Dill, for joining us.
That's
all
all right.
good. So, on the cast,
Yes.
where can guys find you?
So if you have a look at any of your favorite podcast listening stations like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything like that, just look for On the Cast. You should be able to find it, I dare say. Instagram, On the Cast Media. We're on Facebook as well. We don't do too much on that, but again, On the Cast Media. And you'll find us there. You can chat to us. Preferably Instagram, probably your best bet if anyone wants to get in contact with us, for sure. That's
the way. Good stuff. And On the Cast Media. So is there more coming? Is there other surprises in store, or are we just podcasting?
There's always been plans that fizzle out. You know what it's like. Like we've had grand ambitions from time to time, but we thought we'd go with media in case we ever want to expand into different things.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, we'll see. Nice. There might be more. Lots of pretty photos up there. Like
both you boys do take a nice pic, so it's good. So everyone, jump on the cast, have a listen. The boys have got plenty of quality there, especially lure fishing angled stuff. So not just fly. There's a bit of everything there. So
everything from all around, bit of stuff from all around the world too. So lots of offshore, lots of big GTs, right down to trout, bit of cod, estuary stuff. It's all in there.
Thank you for listening to The Outflow by Ebb Tide Tackle. Subscribe to the podcast to listen to other episodes and stay up to date with new releases. And don't forget to rate and review.